right, the next type of cell is a leukocyte. And these are white blood cells. So white blood cells are basically, their function is in immunity. Again, they originate in the bone marrow. And they come from hematopoietic stem cells, just like the red blood cells do. So again, a stem cell is just a generalized cell that can turn into or differentiate itself into another type of cell. So it will the hematopoietic stem cells can also differentiate into the different types of white blood cells. These cells are complete cells. So they have all the organelles, all the nucleus, and all that. But they don't divide. So these are cells that don't divide. They are made in the bone marrow, just like the red blood cells. And mostly because these are immune system cells. They're going to be doing things like eating bacteria and stuff like that. So you really don't want those kind of cells dividing and becoming more after they've been doing those things. So if you look at the skin, for instance, you can see how white blood cells kind of work here. So if you have like an injury, so a cut. So there's the cut. This is your skin. And you've got a cut. Let's say this is a cut down into the the dermis. So if this is the epidermis, then this would be the dermis. So if you remember, the epidermis is made up of stratified, squamous epithelium. So these are just stacks of a bunch of epithelial cells. The ones up here at the top are going to be dead. The ones down here at the bottom are going to be the basal layer where they divide, and then they of course move up until they get sloughed off. The dermis is made up of two types of connective tissue, so areolar and dense irregular. Okay, so this injury, so it's an injury here, and of course we'll put this in red because it will say that it's bleeding, right? When we have an injury, those injured cells will secrete some chemicals. So these are chemicals secreted by the injured cells. So these cells sort of send out signals, and they allow for like a breadcrumb trail, I guess you would call it. So a crumb trail. And it allows for circulating white blood cells. So of course we've got red blood cells in here. And then we have some white blood cells. So the white blood cell is attracted to these chemicals called cytokines to the area of the injury. And the ability for those white blood cells to make it to this area is called chemotaxis. So this is the ability of the injured tissue to attract the white blood cells. And then the white blood cell will get to this area and it will sort of seep through the wall of the capillary. So the capillary wall is one cell layer thick of squamous cells. So very thin and very delicate. So this white blood cell can just kind of ooze right through it and then get up into the damaged area. That is called diapedesis. Diapedesis. So that's where that white blood cell makes it over to the area and then oozes out into the injury area and then gets over to where the area is in order to clear out the bacteria and clean it up from debris and stuff like that from the injury. All right, so there are two types of white blood cells. All right, the first one are called granulocytes. So these are white blood cells that have granules in their cytoplasm. The second type are agranulocytes. And these are white blood cells that have few or no granules in their cytoplasm. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to talk about what where erythrocytes or red blood cells, there's one kind, just it's a red blood cell. But white blood cells have different kinds. There's 5 different types of white blood cells. So we're going to talk about each one of those.